Welcome back to another edition of What Happened to My Pressure Washer. This machine's been in service a lot. We've replaced the generator. We've replaced the temperature switch. We did a swap on the fuel solenoid. So there's been a good bit of service done to this machine. Let's go shopping. Man, this store is a disaster. So we just moved in. Huh. That's what we need right there. Oh, it'll take care of it. It's the only thing in the store for less than $1. Look at that. No water spraying anywhere. Problem solved. Now we've got a proper flow of water coming into the trailer. Oh. Uh-oh. Dump valve was open. One thing we're going to look at is the ball valve. Wow. Oh, all right, so I have to talk about something right here. Do you see how much mud is on this? If you want to stop up a surface cleaner nozzle, like immediately, hook this up to your surface cleaner. All it takes is one little bitty piece of sediment to shut your surface cleaner down. We got a hose coming over the hose reel and down through here. What in the world? Well, that's a secure way to let something ride. I'm gonna check the gun. Ooh, very stiff. Probably needs to be taken apart and greased. Everything looks okay there. Structurally, the hose reels appear to be intact. This handle's bent. I mean, even though it's warped right here, it still works. So, huh. Somebody put a superhuman grip on it. This one's also pitted pretty bad. You can't even tell that thing was stainless. And this ball valve right here, that is the freest moving ball valve I've ever seen. Looks like this has been fairly recently greased. Our water level's coming on up. We need to check the quality of the water inside the tank. Whenever you get up on a trailer, I always check to make sure you're not gonna bust your head open on a ladder. It's happened to me a few times. Water looks fairly clean in there. All the lids are intact. So having all your lids, that's something we look for. These straps are starting to show signs of rust, but they are still good. We have a lid there. All our bolts appear to be tight. Give everything the good old shake test. Don't see any signs of cracks on any of this. So this customer brought this machine in, this whole trailer rig in, because this unit, this hot water unit, is not working. I don't know what's not working. The only complaint that we got was it needs some service. I think we're about ready to crank this thing up. Let's check our water level. Yeah, we're looking better on the water. Now I need to figure out which hose reel that's connected to the machine. And so we're coming off right here with this line. It's coming around this way and it's coming down, and this is going to be it right here. So before we start anything, we're going to pull these leaves out of the way so we don't have a fire. I don't like to have a fire. Having fires are bad. This is a little concerning right here. As I look at this, so this is the temperature, the high limit switch. Well, it's not a high limit, it's actually a rotary dial. So I guess it's okay. I don't like to see this. This is a low pressure T in a high pressure environment. I want to make sure this valve is in the on position, because we want to send water. We want to send water through this hose and into this pump. You know, as we're going through the process of diagnosis, we look at different things on the rig, you know, for different issues. You know, right now we're going to note that there's a leak right here. That leak is certainly not a show-stopping situation. I mean, that honestly means nothing, except for the fact that you're dripping water that you could be putting in your tank. And it could create a slip and fall hazard, you know, if you were yeah, right. You pressure washing, you're spraying water everywhere. There's always a slip and fall hazard. Check this out. Turn the key. Nothing happens. So, there's our problem. But what exactly is the problem? The starter's falling off. They fall out all the time. These starters fell off, actually. Wow. Now we know we have a motor problem. We're gonna have to get our voltmeter out and see if we're even getting power to the starter. Alright, well, this project just went from bad to worse. You know, anytime you take a machine to an engine repair shop, make sure you have water in the tank and that they know to turn all the valves on coming to the pump and what to do with your hose. Whenever you're doing tests on the machine, you know, if you're not using any upstream soap injection, you can just put the hose back in the tank and let it recirculate. Or if you have your bypass from your machine run back to your tank, you can just crank it up and let it run. But you're going to need to pull the trigger when you crank it and after you shut it down, just to relieve that pressure. But so in our case here, we're a pressure washing repair store, so we understand all that, so that shouldn't be an issue for this customer. However, we don't really like working on motors, specifically ones that you can't get to, and this would be in that category. So we're gonna have to get in a little closer and see what's going on with this engine. So stay tuned for more information. As we did the initial walkthrough around the machine, we realized that the starter had fallen, not fallen completely off. The bottom bolt was holding it on, and the top bolt had fallen completely out. So the starter had kind of cocked backwards. So that was, you know, a concerning problem. Like, okay, well, what's caused this to happen, right? Well, It's actually pretty common on these Vanguard engines. It's so common that I actually have to keep the starter bolt in stock. So there's the part number. They fall out all the time. So this time, as I put this bolt in, put a little blue Loctite on it. I don't like to use red unless it's an absolute necessity, because you might have to take the starter off. Like, who knows tomorrow? You never know when the starter is gonna go bad. I used a, I don't know if this is even the right size. I used a T40 bit, and you can see right there. But what I had to do is take a piece of shop rag and lay over the top of it to get it to actually hold the bolt on so that I could fish it down in there. I'm telling you, it's really tough down in here. And when you're working on pressure washers, I mean, lawnmowers are probably a little easier, but when it comes to pressure washers, you got so much stuff in this confined space that it's very difficult to you know, get your wrench down in there and you know, get the bolt and all that through there. I did have to use a little short socket extension to get it in there. It's just a 3/8 drive ratchet. I had to remove some pieces off the engine to be able to get to it, but not a lot, and I'll show you that real quick right here. So we just removed the fuel line coming from the gas tank going to the engine, and then I removed the voltage regulator off the side of the engine just to give me a little bit more space. So you can see that's one of the bolts that hold on the voltage regulator, and the starter bolt is down in here. And so you see the pump the pump being here, all this gizmo on the front of this pump, it really just gets in the way. My personal opinion, 90% of this, well, 70% of this is unnecessary on the head of this pump. You don't have to have the gauge. You don't really have to have this tube. Yeah, there's just a lot here this could be cleaned up significantly. We went ahead and installed a new starter solenoid, and it was back here, really difficult to get to. So we went ahead and moved it up closer to the front so that future repairs will be a little easier. So that's done. I got to hook the starter back up because I had removed it and we were checking the starter to see if it was bad, and we determined that it was good, but what's bad is the actual ignition switch. So off camera, removed that and took our voltmeter and checked the continuity, and it no good. So what I'm about to do now is just clean the engine face up, and Mr. Danny's gone to get that new ignition switch. When he gets back, we'll put it on and see what we're working with. My favorite shop towel, the Tubbo towels. I like working with these guys. Now we're going to go to put this ignition wire back on the starter. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to try my best to do it. Got our connections good and tight, and I'm trying to fit this boot back over it. There we go. And there we go. So we got the boots back. Voltage regulator back into place. And let's see. I'm gonna change my socket back out to fit the voltage regulator. And here comes Mr. Danny back with that switch that we need. Alright, so here was our old ignition switch. And just went down to the local auto parts store and picked up a new one, making sure that it had the same points on it. Just do a quick test. Uh-oh.
What is it, boss? That didn't do it either. I don't know then.
Gonna be the wiring harness, I guess. Well, that's no good.
Don't make no movie about this. Hook your brand new starter up.
Well, before we do that, let's just put the voltmeter on it and see if it's getting any volts.
That sounds like a weenie.
I've got the key turned. What did we get?
12.5.
All right, well, I got the key turned off. Nothing. Weird. It was just about 1 quart low, I guess. But guess what?
I didn't get either.
Nothing happening. What I don't know is where is that?
Neutral.
Yeah. Where is it coming into? Where does it? I mean.
And if it's corroded up, oiled up, and everything like that,
Yep.
it may stop from getting. Right there.
Here, let me. Well,
See if it'll work.
let's just see if that makes a difference. Nope, hold on, let me hold it down here without getting my hand cut off. All right. Yep.
That's it.
There's our problem.
That's it. Now we got to find where that sucker goes into. You grab it and pull it.
Well, that's it.
That's
it's
it.
Loose.
Huh?
It's loose.
That's it.
Well, what an exciting situation we've had with this particular engine. Found that the starter had fallen off. The top bolt had backed out and the starter had dropped back. Well, it just so happens the way the wire connects to from the solenoid to the starter, that contact point had hit the metal, and so turning the key shorted out the solenoid, and it also shorted out the key switch. We had the solenoid was bad, the key switch was bad, so we replaced both of those, got the correct bolt, put the starter back on, and then it still wouldn't work. Got the voltmeter out, check the volts going to the starter, so when you turn the key, it's like whenever you turn the key, we were getting 12.3 volts to the starter, but nothing was happening. So pulled the dipstick. There was no oil in the engine. Well, there was oil, it just wasn't reading on the dipstick, and so it wouldn't start. Well, it turns out that wasn't really the case. Granted that it was low of oil, I don't know if it was so low that the low oil sensor was kicking in. Well, the ground wire coming from the battery going to the engine had broken. So when you don't have a good ground, it won't crank. We replaced the ground wire. You'll see a brand new ground wire running to this back bolt on the engine block. It runs here and then down and under and then back up to the battery negative post there. Then we cranked the machine up and realized that the spark plug wire on this side was arcing. That's never a good problem. So we pulled both of the spark plugs. We put new spark plugs in, and this puppy fired up like a brand new Cadillac. So 8 hours later, the machine's back operational. Oh, wait. Also, I found another bolt laying on the floor, and I thought, wonder what that goes to. And it was a machine bolt, so I was like, this looks important. So I set it to the side. Well, after we cranked up the Cadillac and it was running, we noticed that a bolt was backing out of the engine block. On this side, well, I tightened it up and I noticed the same bolt fell out of the other side, which happened to be the bolt that I had found on the trailer, which explains why we had a low oil problem and there was oil all over everything. So that bolt had backed out. And the same thing happened. This was the bolt that completely fell out. So there was oil spraying out of the back of the engine block. But that problem's now solved. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of What Happened to My Pressure Washer.